Dr. Sarah Chun pressed her palm against the smooth metallic surface of the vault door, feeling the subtle vibration that indicated active technology beneath. The dead world of Kepler, 442c, stretched endlessly around her research camp, its barren landscape offering no hint of the civilization that once thrived here. What had drawn her to this particular dig site was a gravitational anomaly detected by deep space scanners, something dense and artificial buried beneath kilometers of sediment and time. Still nothing on the external scanners, called out Marcus Webb, her research partner, from behind a cluster of excavation equipment. The tall, lanky archaeologist wiped sweat from his brow despite the environmental suit's climate control. Whatever's behind that door is shielded better than anything in the galactic database. Sarah stepped back, studying the intricate patterns carved into the vault's surface. The symbols seemed almost familiar, yet unlike anything in current galactic script repositories. The Galactic Archaeological Commission had classified this as a routine survey of precursor ruins, the mysterious civilization that supposedly built the galaxy's first hyperspace networks before vanishing without explanation. But something about these markings felt different, more deliberate, more human. "Marcus, come look at this," she called, running her fingers along a sequence of symbols near the door's center. "These aren't random decorations. They're mathematical progressions, prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, even what looks like atomic weights for basic elements." Marcus joined her, his scanner beeping softly as it analyzed the markings. "That's impossible. The precursors disappeared 50,000 years ago, long before any known civilization developed advanced mathematics. The Zephyrians weren't even using tools when these sites were supposedly built." Sarah frowned, her mind racing through the implications. The Zephyrians were considered the galaxy's oldest spacefaring race, their blue-scaled forms and towering intellects commanding respect throughout the known systems. Their historical records spoke of discovering ancient ruins and hyperspace technology, but never mentioned who built them. Most galactic historians accepted that the precursors were simply too ancient to study properly. "Run a deep scan on this section," Sarah instructed, pointing to a cluster of symbols that seemed to pulse with faint internal light. "I want to know what kind of metal this is, how old it really is, and why it's still powered after all this time." The scanner hummed for several minutes before producing results that made both archaeologists stare in disbelief. "Carbon dating puts this at 12,000 years old," Marcus read slowly. "That's not precursor era. That's practically yesterday in archaeological terms. 12,000 years. Sarah's heart raced. 12,000 years ago, according to galactic history, most species were still developing agriculture. Humans had only achieved spaceflight 3 centuries ago and were considered one of the galaxy's youngest civilizations. The Galactic Council often reminded human representatives of their junior status, granting them limited voting rights and restricting access to advanced technologies. "There's more," Marcus continued, his voice growing quieter. "The metal composition, it's not in any galactic database. The molecular structure is more advanced than current Zephyrian engineering. Sarah, whatever built this was more technologically sophisticated than anything we have today." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's thin atmosphere. She activated her personal communicator, intending to report their findings to the Galactic Archaeological Commission, but hesitated. Something about this discovery felt dangerous, as if uncovering it might change everything they thought they knew about galactic history. "Let's try to open it first," she decided. "Document everything. But let's see what's inside before we involve the commission." Marcus nodded, understanding her caution. They both heard rumors of archaeological discoveries that disappeared into commission vaults, never to be studied again. The official explanation was always the same: dangerous technology that required special handling by senior member species. Sarah approached the door again, this time focusing on the mathematical sequences. If whoever built this vault was as advanced as the scans suggested, they would have created a logical entry method. She began pressing the symbols in sequence, following the prime number pattern she'd identified earlier. The vault responded immediately. Deep thrumming sounds echoed from within the structure as ancient mechanisms awakened. Lights traced along the mathematical sequences, confirming her deduction, and The massive door began to slide aside with surprising smoothness. Cool air flowed out from the vault's interior, carrying scents of metal and ozone that indicated active atmospheric processors. Emergency lighting activated automatically, revealing a corridor that stretched deep into the artificial structure. The walls were lined with more symbols and what appeared to be historical murals depicting various galactic species. "My God," Marcus whispered, stepping into the corridor behind Sarah. "Look at these paintings." The murals were extraordinary in their detail and scope. They showed Zephyrians in primitive clothing receiving gifts of technology from tall, bipedal figures whose faces were obscured by light. Other panels depicted various species, Manthari, Krillians, even the insectoid Vex, all being guided and taught by the same mysterious benefactors. "These look like first contact scenarios," Sarah observed, studying a mural that showed the gift of hyperspace technology to the Manthari. "But who are the teachers?" They moved deeper into the vault, their footsteps echoing in the artificial atmosphere. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with crystalline storage devices, each one humming with contained data. At the chamber's center stood a holographic projector that activated as they approached. A figure materialized above the projector, tall, bipedal, wearing clothing that seemed both ancient and futuristic. When the figure turned toward them, both archaeologists gasped in recognition and disbelief. The face was unmistakably human. "If you are seeing this recording," the holographic figure began, speaking in perfect galactic standard, "then you have discovered one of humanity's greatest secrets. My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez, and I was part of the last generation to remember our true history before the Great Erasure began." Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet, not literally, but conceptually. Everything she thought she knew about human history, about galactic civilization itself, was about to be challenged. 12,000 years ago, the hologram continued, humanity achieved something unprecedented. We learned to travel between stars not through technology, but through genetic adaptation. Our species developed the ability to survive in the vacuum of space, to hibernate for centuries, to navigate by reading gravitational fields directly. We became the galaxy's first true spacefaring civilization. The hologram gestured, and new images appeared around the chamber. Humans in advanced spacecraft, human colonies on distant worlds, human explorers mapping unknown regions of the galaxy. We discovered dozens of species in their early stages of development. The Zephyrians were still a single-world civilization. The Manthari had not yet developed written language. The Krillians were engaged in devastating global wars that threatened their extinction. Marcus grabbed Sarah's arm, his face pale with shock. "This is impossible. Human records only go back a few thousand years. We have no evidence of advanced spacefaring capabilities." "Because it was all deliberately erased," the hologram answered, as if responding to his objection. "We made a choice that would define our species forever. Rather than rule over younger civilizations, we decided to guide them secretly, to give them the tools they needed to develop into spacefaring species themselves." New images showed humans working behind the scenes, teaching mathematics to early Zephyrian scholars, sharing agricultural techniques with struggling Manthari colonies, providing medical knowledge that saved the Krillians from their wars. "We became the precursors of galactic legend," Dr. Vasquez continued. "We built the hyperspace network that would allow other species to explore the galaxy. We established the foundations of what would become the Galactic Council. And then, when our work was complete, we made the ultimate sacrifice." Sarah's hands trembled as she recorded everything on her personal scanner. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Proof that humanity had not only been present during the galaxy's formative period but had actually been its primary architects. "We erased ourselves from history," the hologram revealed. Every record, every monument, every trace of human involvement in galactic development was systematically removed. We retreated to a single world, Earth, and deliberately reduced our technological capabilities to primitive levels. We wanted the species we had helped to believe they had achieved greatness on their own. "But why?" Sarah whispered to the recording, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Because we had learned something about ourselves that terrified us," Dr. Vasquez admitted, her holographic face showing deep sadness. In our explorations, we had encountered the remnants of older civilizations, species that had achieved galactic dominance only to become tyrannical, stagnant, and ultimately extinct. We realized that power corrupts absolutely, and that the greatest gift we could give the galaxy was not our leadership, but our absence. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Humanity had voluntarily given up galactic dominance to prevent their own corruption and to allow other species to develop independently. They had chosen to be forgotten rather than to become tyrants. The erasure was not perfect, the hologram continued. We knew that someday, someone might discover the truth. These vaults were hidden throughout the galaxy, containing proof of humanity's true legacy. Each vault is keyed to human genetic markers. Only humans can open them, and only humans can access the full records contained within. Marcus stared at the crystalline storage devices surrounding them. How much information is stored here? 12,000 years of human galactic history, Dr. Vasquez answered. Scientific advances that surpass current galactic technology by centuries. Medical knowledge that could cure diseases thought incurable. Engineering techniques that could revolutionize space travel. And, most importantly, detailed records of every species we helped, including their true developmental history. Sarah realized the magnitude of what they had discovered. This wasn't just archaeological evidence. It was proof that could reshape galactic civilization itself. But it also represented incredible danger. The Galactic Council maintains power partly through the myth of human inferiority, she said slowly. If this information became public, it would destabilize everything, Marcus finished. Species that think they achieved greatness independently would learn they were guided every step of the way. The current power structure would collapse. The hologram seemed to nod, though it was likely a pre-programmed response. The choice of what to do with this knowledge must be humanity's alone. We have given you the tools to reclaim your birthright as the galaxy's elder species. But remember why we gave it up in the first place. The recording began to fade, but Dr. Vasquez had one final message. In the vault's deepest chamber, you will find something even more important than historical records. You will find the location of Sanctuary, the hidden world where the last generation of original humans went to preserve our true heritage. They and their descendants have been waiting for 12,000 years for humanity to rediscover its past. The hologram disappeared, leaving Sarah and Marcus alone in the vast chamber filled with humanity's lost legacy. They stood in silence for several minutes, both struggling to process the magnitude of their discovery. We can't report this to the commission, Marcus said finally. Not until we understand the full implications. Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through the possibilities and dangers ahead. They had uncovered proof that humanity was not a junior member of galactic civilization, but its founding architect. The question now was whether revealing that truth would save the galaxy or destroy it. Around them, the crystalline storage devices hummed with accumulated knowledge, waiting to share 12,000 years of deliberately hidden history. The path forward was unclear, but one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Sarah spent 3 sleepless days downloading and analyzing the vault's data archives, her portable storage devices struggling to contain even a fraction of the information available. Each crystalline storage unit contained terabytes of historical records, scientific formulas, and cultural documentation that painted an entirely different picture of galactic development than anything taught in universities or government briefings. The deeper chamber that Dr. Vasquez had mentioned required a separate genetic scan to access. When Sarah placed her hand on the secondary scanner, new passages opened, revealing laboratories that still hummed with active power sources. The technology was simultaneously ancient and impossibly advanced. Fusion reactors the size of briefcases, atmospheric processors that could terraform dead worlds in decades rather than centuries, and medical equipment that could repair genetic damage at the cellular level. Look at this, Marcus called from across the laboratory, his voice filled with awe. It's a complete genetic map of human evolution, but not the version we know. According to this data, humans underwent rapid genetic modification about 15,000 years ago, artificial enhancement that granted extended lifespans, radiation resistance, and enhanced cognitive abilities. Sarah joined him at the display terminal, watching as three-dimensional models showed the progression of human genetic enhancement. "We evolved ourselves into a space-faring species," she breathed. "No wonder we were able to explore the galaxy while other species were still developing agriculture." The records revealed that early humans had discovered genetic engineering through careful study of extremophile organisms, bacteria that thrived in impossible conditions. Rather than developing external technology to survive in space, they had modified themselves to become living spacecraft, capable of surviving journeys that lasted centuries. But if humans were so advanced, Marcus asked, studying readouts that showed impossible technological achievements, how did we lose all of this knowledge? The genetic modifications alone should have been passed down through generations. Sarah accessed another data cluster, and the answer made her stomach churn with its implications. "They didn't lose it accidentally," she said quietly. "The final generation deliberately reversed the genetic enhancements. They used controlled viral agents to remove the modifications from their DNA, ensuring that future humans would be unable to access their full potential without rediscovering the enhancement process independently." The records showed the painstaking process of genetic regression that had taken place on Earth during the final years of human galactic presence. Scientists had worked for decades to create viral treatments that would strip enhanced capabilities from human DNA while leaving the species viable and healthy. It had been the ultimate act of self-sacrifice, deliberately making their descendants weaker to prevent the corruption of power. "They were serious about preventing tyranny," Marcus observed. "They didn't just hide their technology, they made it biologically impossible for future humans to access it without first proving they had learned wisdom." Sarah discovered that the enhancement process was reversible, but only through a complex series of genetic treatments that required both advanced knowledge and ethical approval from multiple sources. The original humans had built safeguards to ensure that any future generation attempting to reclaim their birthright would have to demonstrate understanding of the responsibilities involved. As they explored deeper into the vault's technical archives, they found detailed records of humanity's relationships with each species they had guided. The Zephyrians had been the most challenging to help. Their natural intelligence was impressive, but their cultural tendency toward rigid hierarchies had required careful intervention to prevent them from becoming galactic tyrants themselves. The Manthari records were particularly fascinating. The graceful, long-limbed species known for their artistic achievements had actually been on the verge of extinction when humans first encountered them. A plague had devastated their homeworld, leaving only scattered survivors who had lost most of their technology and cultural knowledge. Humans had spent centuries carefully rebuilding Manthari civilization, providing medical treatments and technological guidance while allowing them to believe they had recovered through their own efforts. The Krillians were different, Sarah read from another archive. They had actually achieved early space travel independently, but were using it for warfare between their planetary colonies. Humans had to intervene to prevent them from destroying themselves completely. The records showed that humans had posed as neutral mediators in the Krillian colonial wars, gradually introducing concepts of peaceful cooperation and shared technological development. What galactic history recorded as the Great Krillian Unification had actually been a carefully orchestrated human peacekeeping effort that lasted nearly 1,000 years. But it was the records about the Vex that provided the most shocking revelations. The insectoid species was currently considered one of the galaxy's most dangerous civilizations, a hive-minded collective that aggressively expanded into new territories while maintaining only minimal diplomatic contact with other species. According to the Human Archives, the Vex had originally been completely different. "My God," Marcus whispered, reading the Vex historical files. "They weren't always a hive mind. The original Vex were individualistic, creative, and peaceful. The hive transformation was something that happened after humans withdrew from galactic affairs. The records suggested that the Vex had undergone forced genetic modification by an unknown external force sometime after humanity's retreat to Earth. Their original culture had been built around individual artistic expression and scientific curiosity. The current hive-minded collective was apparently the result of genetic manipulation that had stripped away their individual consciousness." "If that's true," Sarah said slowly, "then Someone else has been manipulating galactic species. Someone who wasn't content to let civilizations develop naturally. She accessed the vault's deepest archives, using her enhanced clearance to search for any records of non-human interference in galactic development. What she found made her blood run cold. The final human records spoke of detecting signs of external manipulation in several species during the last centuries of human galactic presence. Unknown agents had been introducing genetic modifications and cultural influences that promoted aggressive expansion and hierarchical control. The humans had begun investigating these influences when they made their decision to withdraw from galactic affairs. They knew, Sarah realized. The humans knew that something else was working to corrupt the species they had helped. That's why they were so desperate to remove themselves from the equation. Marcus accessed tactical records that showed human military preparations during their final years of galactic presence. Look at this. They were preparing for war against something. These aren't defensive installations. These are weapons designed to fight an enemy that could manipulate genetics and culture across multiple species simultaneously. The archives revealed that humanity's withdrawal had not been entirely voluntary. They had been fighting a shadow war against entities that could influence species development through methods that humans struggled to understand or counter. The decision to erase themselves from galactic history had been partly to protect the species they had guided and partly to hide from enemies who were actively hunting for the galaxy's true architects. The location of Sanctuary, Sarah said urgently, accessing the final set of coordinates that Dr. Vasquez had mentioned. If there are humans there who remember the original conflict, they might know what humanity was really fighting against. The coordinates pointed to a system beyond the current borders of charted space, a location that would require months of travel even with advanced hyperspace technology. But the records indicated that Sanctuary was more than just a hidden human colony. It was a fortress world designed to preserve human knowledge and capabilities while remaining completely invisible to galactic detection methods. As Sarah prepared to download the Sanctuary coordinates, her personal communicator chimed with an incoming message. The signal was weak but persistent, and when she accessed it, her heart nearly stopped. The message was from Commander Jennifer Hayes of the Earth Defense Force, but it was being transmitted on frequencies that didn't exist in current human technology. The signal was coming from somewhere far beyond known space, and it carried authentication codes that matched the vault's security protocols. Dr. Chun, the recorded message began. If you are receiving this transmission, you have accessed one of the precursor vaults and learned the truth about human history. I am broadcasting this message from Sanctuary, where we have been monitoring galactic affairs for 12,000 years. Sarah grabbed Marcus's arm as the implications hit her. The humans who had retreated to Sanctuary were not only still alive, but had been watching galactic development the entire time. The situation has changed, Commander Hayes continued. The entities we originally fought have returned, and they are accelerating their manipulation of galactic species. The Vex transformation was just the beginning. Our analysis indicates that several other species are showing signs of artificial genetic and cultural modification. The message included data packets that Sarah's equipment could barely process, star charts showing movement patterns of unknown vessels, genetic analysis of recent changes in various species, and tactical assessments of technological developments that didn't match natural progression curves. We need humanity to reclaim its heritage, the commander's message concluded. Not for power or control, but because we are the only species with the knowledge and capability to stop what is coming. The galaxy needs its true guardians to return before it is too late. The transmission ended with specific instructions for reaching Sanctuary, including hyperspace routes that avoided detection by both galactic authorities and unknown hostile forces. But it also contained a warning that made Sarah's hands tremble. Dr. Chun, you should know that your discovery of this vault has already been detected by hostile forces. We estimate you have less than 72 hours before they arrive to secure or destroy the site. Whatever you decide about humanity's future, decide quickly. Sarah and Marcus stared at each other in the sudden silence of the laboratory. Around them, 12,000 years of hidden human achievement hummed with patient energy, waiting for decisions that could reshape galactic civilization or doom it entirely. We need to get this information to Earth, Marcus said finally. Humanity deserves to know what we really are. Sarah nodded, but her mind was already racing through the dangers ahead. If hostile forces were coming to the vault, they would need to evacuate immediately. But, more importantly, they would need to decide whether to involve human authorities who might not believe their discoveries or to attempt to reach sanctuary themselves. The crystalline archives around them contained enough knowledge to transform human civilization overnight. Medical advances that could extend lifespans to millennia, engineering techniques that could build interstellar networks in decades rather than centuries, and, most critically, the genetic enhancement procedures that could restore humanity's original spacefaring capabilities. But they also contained the responsibility of becoming the galaxy's guardians once again, and the terrible knowledge that somewhere in the darkness between stars, ancient enemies were working to corrupt everything humans had once tried to protect. As Sarah began the final data download that would preserve humanity's legacy, she realized they were no longer just archaeologists who had stumbled onto an amazing discovery. They had become the bridge between humanity's forgotten past and its uncertain future, carrying the weight of galactic civilization on their shoulders. The countdown to hostile arrival had begun, and, with it, humanity's return to the cosmic stage they had abandoned 12,000 years ago. Sarah's hands moved frantically across the vault's interface systems as she downloaded the most critical data archives, her portable storage devices filling rapidly with 12,000 years of hidden human knowledge. The warning from Sanctuary had given them less than 72 hours, but she suspected they had even less time than that. "Marcus, start prepping the emergency transmission array," she called out, not looking up from her work. "We need to get this information to Earth immediately, before anyone else discovers what we've found." Marcus was already assembling their long-range communication equipment, modified with Galactic Archaeological Commission upgrades that could punch through hyperspace interference. "Sarah, are you sure about this? Once we send this data to human authorities, there's no taking it back. Everything changes." She paused for a moment, considering the magnitude of what they were about to unleash. In the past 3 days, they had discovered that humanity was not a primitive newcomer to galactic civilization, but its forgotten architect. They had learned that humans had voluntarily erased themselves from history to prevent corruption and tyranny. Most importantly, they had uncovered evidence that ancient enemies were actively manipulating other species toward aggressive expansion and loss of individual identity. "Look around us, Marcus," she said finally. "This technology could solve humanity's energy crisis overnight. The medical advances could eliminate diseases that still kill millions of people. And if the warnings from Sanctuary are accurate, we might be the galaxy's only hope against whatever is manipulating the other species." She accessed another data cluster, this one containing detailed genetic analysis of the modifications that had made humans naturally capable of space travel. The procedures were complex, but achievable with current human medical technology. A volunteer could undergo the enhancement process and emerge with extended lifespan, radiation resistance, and the ability to survive in vacuum for extended periods. But that's exactly what the original humans were afraid of, Marcus pointed out, helping her organize the downloaded files. They were worried that power would corrupt humanity, that we'd become galactic tyrants if we had access to advanced capabilities. Sarah found herself studying records of human ethical debates that had lasted for centuries during their time as galactic guardians. The archives contained thousands of philosophical discussions about the responsibilities of advanced civilizations, the dangers of technological superiority, and the moral obligations of species that achieved spacefaring capabilities before their neighbors. They were right to be cautious, she admitted. But they were also working with incomplete information. They didn't know about the hostile forces that were actively corrupting the species they had helped. The situation has changed. The Vault's monitoring systems suddenly activated, displaying tactical information that made both archaeologists freeze in terror. Unknown vessels were approaching the system at speeds that shouldn't have been possible with current galactic technology. The ships were using stealth systems that barely registered on the Vault's advanced sensors, suggesting technological capabilities that exceeded even the hidden human archives. "They found us," Marcus whispered, watching as the display showed 6 vessels moving into orbital positions around the planet. How is that possible? This system is supposed to be uncharted. Sarah accessed the vault's defensive protocols, discovering that the ancient structure was far more than just a storage facility. Hidden weapons systems powered up automatically, and force field generators created protective barriers around the excavation site. The humans who had built this place had expected it to be discovered and had prepared accordingly. The vault is designed to protect itself, she realized, studying the defensive readouts. But these weapons are 12,000 years old. I don't know if they can stand up to whatever technology those ships are using. The communication array finally came online, and Sarah immediately began transmitting their findings to Earth using emergency archaeological protocols. The data stream would take hours to complete, but at least some of the information would reach human authorities even if the hostile forces managed to destroy the vault. As the transmission began, the vault's archives automatically updated with new information. Commander Hayes from Sanctuary was broadcasting again, this time with real-time tactical intelligence about the approaching vessels. Dr. Chun, the ships moving into your system belong to the Collective, the entity we have been fighting for 12,000 years. The commander's voice crackled through quantum interference. They are not a traditional species, but a hybrid consciousness that spreads through genetic manipulation and technological integration. The Vex transformation was their work. The tactical display showed detailed analysis of the approaching vessels. They appeared to be a fusion of technologies from multiple species, incorporating Zephyrian engineering, Menthari aesthetics, and what looked like completely alien design elements that didn't match any known galactic civilization. The Collective seeks to transform all galactic species into components of a single unified consciousness, Commander Hayes continued. They corrupt civilizations from within, gradually replacing individual thought with collective imperatives. We believe they originated from beyond our galaxy and have been working to prepare local species for integration into their greater network. Sarah felt sick as the implications became clear. The aggressive expansionism of recent decades, the increasing conflicts between species, the gradual erosion of individual rights in favor of collective security, all of it could be explained as preparation for transformation into this collective entity. How long have they been active in our galaxy? She transmitted back to Sanctuary, hoping the communication would get through before the hostile forces jammed their signals. We estimate initial infiltration began approximately 8,000 years ago, came the reply. The Collective moved slowly, spending centuries or millennia preparing each species for integration. They likely targeted humanity originally, but lost track of us when we erased ourselves from galactic records. Marcus was monitoring the approaching vessels through the vault's external sensors. They're not moving like they're planning an attack, he observed. It looks more like they're setting up containment positions. Sarah realized with growing horror that the Collective didn't want to destroy the vault. They wanted to capture it intact. 12,000 years of human technological advancement would be invaluable to an entity seeking to integrate all galactic species into a single consciousness. They want our technology, she said urgently. If they can reverse engineer human genetic enhancement techniques, they could apply them to their integration process. They could create enhanced soldiers or administrators who still maintain individual consciousness while serving the Collective's goals. The Vault's defensive systems were impressive, but they were also clearly designed for a different era of warfare. The force fields and energy weapons were powerful enough to deal with conventional galactic military technology, but the Collective ships were using scanning methods that seemed to phase through the Vault's protective barriers. Sarah, Marcus called from the communication station. I'm getting multiple incoming transmissions. Someone is trying to establish contact. She activated the incoming communication channel, expecting to hear demands for surrender or threats of destruction. Instead, a calm, measured voice spoke in perfect galactic standard with just a hint of mechanical undertones. Dr. Sarah Chun, Dr. Marcus Webb, we greet you with respect and admiration for your archaeological achievements. The voice began. We are representatives of the Collective, and we come not as conquerors but as partners in the advancement of galactic civilization. The transmission included visual elements that showed beings who looked almost normal, representatives of various galactic species who appeared healthy and productive, working together in impressive technological facilities. Your discovery of human historical records is precisely what the galaxy needs at this critical juncture, the collective spokesman continued. The current system of independent species competing for resources and territory is inefficient and ultimately self-destructive. The collective offers unity, purpose, and technological advancement beyond anything currently possible. Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus, recognizing the sophisticated persuasion techniques being employed. The collective wasn't making threats. They were making an offer that would be tempting to many humans, especially those who had grown frustrated with humanity's limited role in galactic affairs. Human genetic enhancement technology, combined with collective organizational principles, could create a galactic civilization that eliminates poverty, disease, and conflict, the voice continued. Individual consciousness would be preserved and enhanced, not eliminated. Think of it as joining a larger family rather than losing your identity. But Sarah had studied the records of what had happened to the Vex. She knew that the collective's promises of preserved individuality were lies designed to make integration seem attractive to target populations. "We're not interested in your offers," she transmitted back, activating the Vault's jamming systems to prevent further communication. "Humanity has seen what you do to the species you integrate. We won't be part of your collective consciousness." The response was immediate and terrifying. The collective ships began moving closer to the planet's surface, their scanning intensified, and new vessels appeared at the edge of the system. Whatever patience they had been showing was clearly at an end. "Dr. Chun," came an emergency transmission from Sanctuary. "We are launching immediate extraction protocols. A Sanctuary vessel is en route to your position, but it will take 18 hours to reach you. You must hold your position and protect the Vault's archives until help arrives." 18 hours seemed like an impossibly long time when facing technology that could manipulate entire species over centuries. But Sarah realized they didn't have any choice. The information in the Vault was too important to lose, and if the collective gained access to human enhancement technology, they could accelerate their integration of galactic species by thousands of years. "Marcus, help me activate the Vault's full defensive protocols," she said, accessing command systems that required dual authorization. "We're going to make a stand." The Vault responded to their commands by revealing hidden capabilities that neither archaeologist had imagined. The entire structure began to shift and reconfigure itself, transforming from a simple storage facility into a fortified military installation. Weapon systems emerged from concealed compartments, shield generators powered up to maximum capacity, and automated manufacturing systems began producing defensive drones. "This isn't just a vault," Marcus breathed, watching as the ancient facility revealed its true nature. "It's a military base designed to fight exactly this kind of enemy." Sarah accessed the command protocols and found detailed tactical manuals for fighting the collective. The original humans had not only known about their enemy but had developed specific strategies and weapons for combating their integration techniques. "They left us a fortress," she realized, and an instruction manual for the war they never got to finish. Outside the Vault's protective barriers, collective forces were establishing siege positions while more ships arrived from hyperspace. But deep beneath the planet's surface, ancient human technology was awakening after 12,000 years of patient waiting, preparing to demonstrate why humanity had once been the galaxy's most respected and feared guardians. The battle for humanity's legacy was about to begin, and the outcome would determine whether galactic civilization retained its diversity or was absorbed into a single, terrifying unity. The Vault's transformation into a military fortress was unlike anything Sarah had imagined possible. Ancient manufacturing systems worked with impossible speed, creating defensive drones that emerged from hidden production bays like metallic insects. The walls themselves reconfigured, opening weapon ports and sensor arrays that had been concealed for 12 millennia. "Sarah, look at this," Marcus called from the command center, where holographic displays showed the Vault's full capabilities. The defensive systems are powered by something beyond conventional fusion. These energy readings don't match any known technology. She joined him at the tactical display, watching as the vault's scanners mapped the positions of collective forces with precision that exceeded current galactic military standards. The attacking vessels were maintaining containment positions while deploying what appeared to be integration platforms, specialized equipment designed to penetrate defensive barriers and introduce collective consciousness modification technology. "They're not trying to destroy us," Sarah observed, studying the attack patterns. "They want to capture us alive and integrate us into their collective." The Vault's archives had provided detailed information about collective integration techniques. The process involved nanoscale devices that rewrote neural pathways while preserving enough individual memory to maintain the appearance of personal identity. Victims believed they were making free choices even as their consciousness became part of a larger network. "Dr. Chun," came a transmission from the lead collective vessel. "You are forcing us to employ more direct persuasion methods. The integration process is much more comfortable when undertaken voluntarily." The communication included sensory data that showed humans who had supposedly joined the collective willingly. They appeared happy and productive, working on advanced technological projects that seemed to promise unlimited benefits for humanity. But Sarah noticed subtle details that revealed the truth: the uniformity of their expressions, the mechanical precision of their movements, the complete absence of genuine individual creativity. "They're not human anymore," she whispered, recognizing the same emptiness she had seen in current Vex representatives. "They're just biological components programmed to act human." The Vault's defensive systems detected the first integration attempt, nanoscale devices launched from the collective vessels that could penetrate most known barrier systems. But the ancient human defenses were specifically designed to counter such attacks. Energy fields activated that broke down foreign nanotechnology at the molecular level, creating bright flashes as thousands of integration devices were destroyed. The humans who built this place fought these creatures before, Marcus realized, watching as the defensive systems automatically adapted to each new form of attack. They knew exactly what to expect. Sarah accessed the tactical archives, finding detailed records of humanity's original war against the collective. The conflict had lasted nearly 1,000 years, fought across multiple star systems as humans tried to prevent the integration of the species they had been protecting. "They didn't retreat because they were afraid of becoming tyrants," she said, reading through the historical files. "They retreated because they were losing the war. The collective was too adaptable, too patient. Every victory humanity achieved was ultimately turned against them." The records showed that the collective could learn from each encounter, gradually developing counters to human technology and tactics. Worse, they could corrupt human psychology through extended exposure, slowly convincing even dedicated defenders that integration was logical and beneficial. "The original plan was different," Sarah continued, accessing deeper strategic files. "Humanity was supposed to guide other species to a level where they could defend themselves against the collective. But the integration started happening faster than expected. The humans had to choose between revealing themselves as galactic guardians or allowing the species they protected to fall." Marcus studied tactical displays showing the current siege, and they chose a third option: strategic withdrawal and hidden preparation for a final confrontation. The Vault shuddered as collective forces intensified their attacks. New integration attempts came in waves, some technological, others biological, and a few that seemed to operate on principles that human science still couldn't fully understand. But the ancient defensive systems held firm, each attack providing data that improved the Vault's countermeasures. "Incoming transmission from Sanctuary," the communication system announced. "Priority override detected." Commander Hayes appeared on the holographic display, her image flickering with interference from the ongoing battle. "Dr. Chun, we're tracking the collective forces at your location. The siege pattern suggests they're preparing for a major integration assault, something that could convert your entire star system into a collective processing facility." The implications were terrifying. Sarah realized that the collective wasn't just interested in capturing the Vault. They were using this confrontation as an opportunity to establish a permanent foothold in this region of space. "Commander, what are our options?" she transmitted back. "The Vault's defenses are holding, but I don't know how long they can last against a sustained assault." "You have two choices," Commander Hayes replied. You can activate the Vault's ultimate defense protocol, which will ensure that the collective cannot access human technology, but will also destroy everything in a 50 light-year radius. Or you can hold your position for 12 more hours until our extraction team arrives. Sarah felt the weight of an impossible decision. The ultimate defense protocol would prevent the collective from gaining access to human technology, but it would also destroy inhabited systems that had nothing to do with their conflict. There's a third option, Marcus said suddenly, studying the Vault's technical specifications. The genetic enhancement chambers are still functional. We could use them to restore our original human capabilities and fight our way out. The enhancement process that had made the original humans capable of surviving in space was available in the Vault's medical facilities. The procedures were dangerous and irreversible, but they would grant capabilities that might allow them to escape the collective siege. The original humans spent decades reversing those enhancements, Sarah pointed out. They believed the modifications were too dangerous for humanity to possess. But they made that decision based on incomplete information, Marcus argued. They didn't know about the collective threat continuing to grow. Maybe enhanced humans are exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Sarah accessed the enhancement protocols, studying the procedures that could transform them from normal humans into something approaching the original spacefaring form. The modifications would grant extended lifespans, enhanced cognitive abilities, and physical capabilities that exceeded any current galactic species. It's not just about us, she realized. If we undergo the enhancement and escape, we become living proof that humanity can reclaim its heritage. We become symbols of what humans could become again. The Vault's defensive systems detected a new type of attack, something that bypassed physical barriers entirely and attempted to manipulate the probability fields that governed quantum interactions. The ancient defenses adapted quickly, but the sophistication of the assault suggested that the collective was escalating to weapons that could affect reality itself. Decision time, Dr. Chun. Came another transmission from the collective forces. We are prepared to demonstrate capabilities that will convince you of the futility of resistance. Integration is inevitable. The only question is whether it happens peacefully or through force. Sarah looked at Marcus, seeing her own determination reflected in his face. They had uncovered humanity's greatest secret and learned the truth about galactic civilization. They had discovered that humans were not junior members of an advanced society, but its forgotten architects. Most importantly, they had found evidence of an enemy that threatened everything humans had tried to protect. We do both, she decided. We undergo the genetic enhancement, and then we activate the ultimate defense protocol as we leave the system. The collective won't get human technology, and will survive to carry the truth back to humanity. Marcus nodded, understanding the magnitude of what they were proposing. We become the bridge between humanity's past and future. Enhanced humans carrying 12,000 years of accumulated knowledge. They moved quickly to the Vault's medical facility, where the genetic enhancement chambers hummed with patient energy. The procedures would take several hours to complete, during which they would be completely vulnerable to collective attack. But the Vault's defensive systems would hold. They had been designed by humans who understood the stakes involved. Dr. Chun. Came one final transmission from Sanctuary as they prepared to enter the enhancement chambers. You should know that you're not just choosing to restore your genetic heritage. You're choosing to become humanity's first ambassadors to a galaxy that has forgotten what we really are. Sarah paused at the threshold of the enhancement chamber, considering the irrevocable step she was about to take. In a few hours, she would emerge as something more than human, but also, in many ways, as something more authentically human than anyone born in the past 12,000 years. Marcus, she said quietly, when we come out of this, we won't just be archaeologists anymore. We'll be living weapons designed to fight an enemy that can corrupt entire civilizations. But we'll also be proof that humanity doesn't have to accept the limitations imposed by others, he replied, entering his own enhancement chamber. We'll be proof that humans can reclaim their birthright as the galaxy's guardians. The enhancement chambers sealed, beginning procedures that would reshape their genetic structure according to patterns perfected 12 millennia ago. Outside the medical facility, The Vault's defenses continued their desperate battle against collective forces while deep in its archives. The ultimate defense protocol prepared for activation. In 6 hours, Sarah and Marcus would emerge as something the galaxy had not seen for 12,000 years. Enhanced humans with the capabilities and knowledge to challenge the collective directly. But they would also carry the responsibility of deciding whether humanity was ready to resume its role as the galaxy's hidden guardians. The battle for humanity's legacy was entering its final phase, and the outcome would determine whether galactic civilization survived as a collection of diverse species or was absorbed into a single, terrifying unity that wore the faces of familiar races while possessing none of their souls. Sarah's consciousness returned slowly, emerging from the genetic enhancement process with awareness that felt fundamentally different than anything she had experienced before. Her vision was sharper, able to perceive electromagnetic spectra that had been invisible to her original human senses. Her mind processed information with speed and clarity that made her previous cognitive abilities seem sluggish by comparison. The enhancement chamber opened with a soft hiss, and she stepped out to find Marcus already adapting to his own transformation. He moved with fluid grace that seemed almost supernatural, his enhanced reflexes automatically adjusting to balance and coordination that exceeded normal human limitations. "How do you feel?" he asked, his voice carrying harmonic overtones that hadn't been there before the enhancement. "Different," Sarah replied, marveling at the complexity of data flowing through her expanded consciousness. "But also complete. Like this is what humans are supposed to be." The Vault's defensive systems had held during their transformation, but the tactical displays showed that collective forces had increased their assault to levels that were straining even the ancient barriers. More ships had arrived, forming a complete blockade around the planet, while deployment platforms prepared for final integration attempts. Time remaining until sanctuary extraction, the Vault's AI announced. 6 hours, 14 minutes. Current defensive integrity at 67% and declining. Sarah accessed the Vault's ultimate defense protocol, studying the weapon system that could eliminate everything in a 50-light-year radius. The technology was beyond conventional physics, utilizing controlled space-time manipulation that would create a localized reality collapse. Nothing would survive, not the collective forces, not the Vault, and not any inhabited systems unfortunate enough to be within the effect radius. "We can't use it," she realized, scanning the nearby star systems. There are 3 inhabited worlds within the destruction zone, including a Manthari colony with 2 billion people. Marcus studied the tactical situation with enhanced cognitive abilities that allowed him to process multiple scenarios simultaneously. "Then, we have to find another way. Our enhanced capabilities should allow us to survive in space long enough to reach the sanctuary extraction point." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility that the original enhanced humans must have carried. With their expanded awareness came understanding of the true scope of the collective threat and the moral implications of every decision they made. "The collective isn't just trying to integrate galactic species," she said, accessing deeper analysis protocols that her enhanced mind could now fully comprehend. "They're preparing this galaxy for something larger. This is just the advanced phase of a much bigger operation." The Vault's archives revealed the complete scope of collective expansion across multiple galaxies. The entity that threatened local civilization was actually a small component of something vast beyond imagination, a network of consciousness that spanned millions of galaxies, consuming diverse civilizations and converting them into standardized components. "They've done this before," Marcus observed, reading through records of distant galactic clusters that had fallen to collective integration. "Hundreds of times, across billions of years. We're just their latest target." The realization was sobering. Humanity's original withdrawal from galactic affairs hadn't just been about preventing their own corruption. It had been about buying time to develop weapons and strategies that could fight an enemy of literally cosmic scope. "But that also means we're not fighting alone," Sarah said, accessing communication protocols that connected to resistance networks across multiple galaxies. "There are other species, other civilizations that have fought the collective and survived." Her enhanced consciousness interfaced directly with the Vault's quantum communication array, establishing contact with resistance groups that operated across galactic boundaries. The transmissions revealed a vast network of species that had learned to hide from collective detection while developing technologies specifically designed to counter integration attempts. Dr. Chun, came a transmission from an unknown source. We have been monitoring your situation. You have achieved something remarkable, the first successful restoration of enhanced human capabilities in 12,000 years. The signal was coming from a location outside the known galaxy, transmitted through quantum corridors that avoided collective monitoring networks. The speaker identified themselves as Admiral Kethvar of the Hegemony Resistance, representing a coalition of species that had escaped collective integration in distant galactic clusters. The original enhanced humans were our allies in the Greater War, Admiral Kethvar continued. Their withdrawal from your galaxy was coordinated with our strategic retreat to hidden strongholds beyond collective detection range. We have been waiting for humanity to reclaim its heritage and rejoin the resistance. Sarah felt the scope of the conflict expanding beyond anything she had imagined. The collective threat wasn't limited to their local galactic region. It was part of a war that spanned the observable universe, with humanity playing a critical role in cosmic-scale resistance operations. What do you need from us? She transmitted back, already understanding that their escape from the vault was just the beginning of much larger responsibilities. The collective's expansion into your galaxy can be stopped, the Admiral replied. But only if enhanced humans can restore the Guardian network that once protected your local species. The original humans built fail-safe systems throughout this galaxy, hidden installations that can activate coordinated defenses against collective integration. The Vault's archives updated with new information from the Resistance Network, showing the locations of dormant Guardian installations scattered across hundreds of star systems. Each installation contained technology specifically designed to counter collective operations, but they required enhanced human genetic signatures to activate. There are 47 installations, Sarah read through the tactical data. But activating them would require years of travel time, and the collective will be expanding their operations during that entire period. Marcus was studying enhancement protocols that could be transmitted to other humans throughout the galaxy. Not if we can restore human capabilities on a larger scale. The genetic modifications can be delivered through controlled viral vectors, similar to what the original humans used for genetic regression. The idea was audacious, using the same methods that had originally removed human enhancements to restore them across the entire human population. It would transform humanity from a relatively primitive species into the galaxy's most advanced civilization virtually overnight. But that's exactly what the original humans were afraid of, Sarah pointed out. Sudden access to advanced capabilities without corresponding wisdom and restraint. The situation has changed, Marcus argued. We're not dealing with the luxury of gradual development anymore. We're facing an extinction-level threat that requires immediate response. The Vault's defensive systems suddenly detected massive energy buildups from the collective fleet. The attackers were preparing something that exceeded anything they had attempted so far. An integration assault designed to convert the entire planet into a collective processing facility. Decision time, Sarah realized, accessing both the Ultimate Defense Protocol and the Global Enhancement Deployment System. We can destroy everything within 50 light-years to prevent collective expansion, or we can risk transforming humanity into something we might not be able to control. The weight of galactic civilization rested on a choice between certain destruction and uncertain transformation. Sarah thought about the Manthari colony that would be destroyed by the ultimate defense, the human populations throughout the galaxy who deserved the chance to reclaim their heritage, and the cosmic-scale war that required humanity to resume its role as galactic guardians. There's a third option, she said suddenly, her enhanced consciousness processing possibilities that hadn't been available to her original human mind. We activate the Global Enhancement Protocol, but we also broadcast the full historical records to every species in the galaxy simultaneously. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Rather than trying to restore humanity's guardian role in secret, they would reveal everything to all galactic species at once. The truth about human heritage, the reality of the collective threat, and the choice between continued independence or integration into cosmic-scale consciousness. Complete transparency, Marcus understood. Let every species decide for themselves whether they want human protection or collective integration. Sarah activated both protocol systems, watching as the Vault prepared to broadcast 12,000 years of hidden history to every inhabited world in the galaxy. At the same time, enhancement vectors began deploying toward Earth and human colonies, carrying genetic modifications that would restore humanity's original spacefaring capabilities. To all species of the galactic community, she broadcast on frequencies that would reach every civilization. You are about to learn the truth about your history and your future. Make your choices wisely. The collective fleet launched their final assault just as the Vault's transmission arrays activated. Information flooded across the galaxy. Historical records showing humanity's role in guiding early civilizations, technical specifications for technologies that exceeded current galactic capabilities, and detailed evidence of collective manipulation across multiple species. On Earth, enhancement vectors entered the atmosphere, beginning the process that would transform humanity back into the genetically enhanced guardians they had been 12 millennia ago. On Zephyria, government officials struggled to process records showing that their greatest achievements had been guided by humans. Throughout Manthari space, artists and philosophers grappled with evidence that their cultural recovery had been orchestrated by forgotten mentors. Sarah and Marcus felt the Vault's ultimate defense protocol powering up as collective forces broke through the outer defensive barriers. But instead of destroying everything in the system, the weapon had been reconfigured to create a quantum corridor that would transport them directly to Sanctuary while leaving the collective fleet intact. Why not destroy them? Marcus asked as they prepared for transport. Because destroying them would prove the collective's point about the inevitability of conflict, Sarah replied. We're going to show them something they've never encountered before, a civilization that chooses to be guardians rather than conquerors. The quantum transport activated, pulling them through space-time toward the hidden fortress world where enhanced humans had been waiting for 12,000 years. Behind them, the Vault's final transmission completed its broadcast, ensuring that every species in the galaxy now possessed the knowledge needed to make informed choices about their future. As they materialized aboard the Sanctuary transport vessel, Sarah and Marcus found themselves face-to-face with Commander Hayes and dozens of other enhanced humans who had preserved their heritage across 12 millennia of exile. Welcome back to humanity's true legacy, Commander Hayes said with a smile that contained both sadness and hope. The galaxy is about to rediscover what it means to have guardians rather than rulers. Through the transport's viewports, they could see stars throughout the galaxy beginning to change as human enhancement protocols took effect, and species across thousands of worlds began making choices about their future. The age of humanity's hidden exile was over, and the true battle for galactic civilization was about to begin. But, for the first time in 12,000 years, it would be fought by humans who remembered what they really were, not conquerors seeking dominance, but guardians protecting the diversity that made galactic civilization worth preserving. The collective had awakened an enemy they thought was extinct, and they were about to learn why humanity had once been both the galaxy's greatest hope and its most feared protectors.